This story is about a poor and honest girl named Aya. On the very first day of school, Aya was late, and as she rushed toward her class, she collided with a classmate. That boy ran away without saying anything, but not only did Aya's stockings tear, but her knees also got scraped. As she groaned in pain, another boy stepped forward, picked up her fallen bag, and offered her a helping hand. However, Aya was so busy dusting off her clothes that she didn't even notice him. When she finally looked up, the bright sunlight hit her eyes, preventing her from seeing the boy's face. Due to a lack of time, she directly ran toward her class. As soon as she opened the door and entered, the teacher called out her name, and Aya, stepping through the door, accidentally bumped right into the teacher. At that very moment, the same boy who had helped her entered the class again. He bowed in front of the teacher and apologized, but the teacher scolded him. However, right after that, the teacher's attitude changed, and she smiled and forgave Aya. The classmates found this whole situation a bit odd, but for Aya, it felt like a lucky break. After the break, a slightly gossipy girl tried to learn more about Aya. She found out that Aya had always been a top student in math and had even beaten the school's top student in the subject. When that boy later found out about this, his hunger to win grew even more. Aya was managing her school life while dealing with her daily struggles. After school, she worked part-time at a convenience store to feed her younger sister. One day, she received her salary, but it wasn't enough to cover her household expenses. One day, when she went to get some money for her expenses, a gust of wind blew her cash away. Aya chased after it, but every time she got close, the wind carried it further. While running after the money, she reached an old amusement park where she encountered an old magician. The magician was holding her money in his hand. Frightened, Aya ran away. But later, when she returned home and met her sister, things felt normal again. When Aya arrived home, she realized they had no food. Still, her sister tried to cheer her up by telling her that she had eaten 3 bowls during lunch at school and wasn't hungry anymore. Aya finally got a moment to settle down when she received an invitation card, and just then, their landlord arrived. He warned them that if they didn't pay the rent, they would have to leave the house. Aya realized she had to do something to get money, so she went back to the old amusement park. There, she met the magician again, and he used his magic to produce money. However, Aya could only take back her own money. As she left the park, a small sense of hope entered her life, since she had gotten her money back. One day at the convenience store, Aya found a half-eaten burger that a customer had thrown away. She thought about eating it, but the store owner arrived and told her not to waste food. The next day, that same owner gave Aya extra salary and offered to help her once again. Aya then told her boss about her father's bad situation. In response, the boss took out 3 million yen from his wallet and handed it to her. This sudden act of kindness left Aya so shocked that she couldn't process it. She kept thanking her boss repeatedly and promised to work even harder. But in the very next moment, the boss's true face was revealed. The man who had seemed so kind now looked completely vile. Out of fear, Aya dropped the food she was holding and clenched the money in her hands tightly. Tears welled up in her eyes. This is why girls should always be cautious and not fall for the sweet words of strangers. Suddenly, the boss grabbed Aya and she started pushing him away with all her strength. Mustering every ounce of her willpower, she threw the boss to the ground. His expression twisted with anger as he began hurling insults at her, calling her a disgraceful beggar who only pretended to be poor to get money. Then, he grabbed her collar and started threatening her. Aya silently prayed that someone would come to her rescue. At that moment, a handsome young man appeared and caught the boss's raised hand. The mysterious boy, wearing a magic hat, flicked his cloak, and in an instant, the boss completely disappeared. Watching all this unfold, Aya felt like she was dreaming. The next day, she couldn't believe what she saw when she returned to the convenience store. The place was completely shut down. Aya left the money inside the store and walked away. That evening, she saw the magic man again at the amusement park. She asked him how he had known she was in trouble. The magic man encouraged her, telling her not to become like her father, who ran away from his responsibilities. His words gave Aya some comfort, and she told him that she would try to move forward in life. The magic man then took out a glowing blue butterfly from his necklace, which fluttered around Aya. The entire park lit up with a new vibrance. Aya sat on the Ferris wheel, watching the dazzling fireworks in the sky. Everything felt so magical and surreal that for a moment, Aya forgot all her worries. But this moment didn't completely erase her struggles and fears. It simply gave her a brief escape from them. In the school canteen, this poor girl, who couldn't even afford a proper meal, started secretly taking a double serving. As she sat down and looked around to make sure no one was watching, she quickly pulled out her tiffin from her pocket and stuffed the food inside. Aya didn't notice that a girl had walked up behind her. When the girl accidentally bumped into her, the food fell to the ground. Aya looked at her friend in fear but didn't say a word. The girl understood Aya's intention of packing the food and, feeling a little upset, walked away. Once the two had left, Aya picked up the food from the ground, now covered in dust. Back in the classroom, she hid her tiffin inside her bag, unaware that the same girl who had bumped into her earlier was watching. The next day, Aya came to school wearing the same old, torn stockings. One of her friends felt a pang of sympathy for her. 2 girls noticed this and decided to mess with Aya. During the sports period, Aya started feeling unwell and rushed back to the classroom. That's when she found 5,001 on the floor. Looking around and seeing no one nearby, she quickly bent down to pick up the money. But just then, her friend, Yitong, entered the classroom. Aya immediately stuffed the money into her pocket without saying a word, clutching it tightly. At that moment, the 2 other girls entered the classroom. Hana gave a signal to the short-haired girl, who then started searching the floor as if she had lost something. When Aya overheard this, she fell silent. The girl turned to Aya with a knowing smile. Aya lowered her head and didn't say anything, only trying to hide her pocket. At that moment, Aya convinced herself, "I picked this money up from the ground. It's not stealing." But her reaction said everything. When Hana realized what Aya was going through, she decided to let her go. The next day, Aya came to school wearing new stockings, but Hana continued to secretly harass her. Aya stayed silent, though a friend noticed everything. After class, Aya sat at her desk, lost in thought. Her friend, Yitong, found himself captivated by her beauty and felt an uneasiness in his heart. Trying to regain focus, he started writing math problems but couldn't help glancing at Aya from time to time. He found her curled eyelashes incredibly cute. Suddenly, Aya opened her eyes, and Yitong quickly slid a math question in front of her. Mistakenly, Aya thought he was asking for help, unaware that he was just trying to hide his nervousness. Now, a little more aware of him, Aya remained quiet, but Yitong had already locked this moment deep in his heart. That day, Aya sat under a tree, lost in her thoughts. From a distance, Yitong watched her, finally understanding his feelings. He slowly walked over, appearing relaxed as he sat beside her. Handing her his favorite drink, he hesitated before asking if she had time later. However, embarrassment took over, and he quickly withdrew his hand. Just then, the school bell rang, and Yitong changed the subject. As Aya walked away, a wave of disappointment washed over him. He hadn't been able to give her the drink, nor had he managed to use his usual flirty moves. To her classmates, Aya was just a poor girl who wore torn stockings and secretly packed food to take home for her sister. The convenience store owner had taken pity on her struggles and started giving her special bentos and rice balls. Aya truly thought she had met a kind-hearted person, but in reality, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, waiting for the right moment to trap her. When Aya finally realized what was happening, she felt deep pain. Fortunately, the magic master, Li Yi, came to her rescue. Aya continued visiting the convenience store, trying to gather information about the owner. But soon, she discovered that he had disappeared. Alarmed, Aya rushed to the amusement park, where a parrot confirmed that no one knew where the owner had gone. Fear took over, and she ran away. Coincidentally, Hana had also arrived at the abandoned amusement park and spotted Aya leaving. When Aya reached home, she was surprised to find Li Yi following her. Her younger sister took one look at his clothes and teasingly said, "Who even wears clothes like that?" With childlike amusement, Li Yi used his magic to make eggs appear for the little sister. Annoyed, Aya told him to leave. But just then, debt collectors arrived at her doorstep, looking for her father. A large man, frustrated that he couldn't find Aya's father, started hurling insults at her. Aya, standing her ground, replied that she also wanted to find her father. The debt collector, now furious, grabbed Aya by the collar and pressed hard against her cheek, threatening her. Li Yi watched for a moment before stepping in. The debt collector then turned to Li Yi, demanding that he pay off Aya's debt. Calmly, Li Yi placed both hands on the collector's arms, pressing down slightly. The man let out a painful scream and collapsed to the ground. Reaching into his pocket, Li Yi pulled out a deck of playing cards. With a flick of his wrist, the cards instantly transformed into stacks of currency notes. The debt collectors stared in disbelief. Then Li Yi pulled out a fuse and set it off, sending the money flying into the air like a rain of cash. People around them scrambled to grab the falling notes, believing they had just struck gold. But Aya observed closely and quickly realized it was all just an illusion. Just as the debt collectors caught on, they turned on Li Yi and started attacking him. But Li Yi gladly endured all of it, as he just wanted to help Aya. Aya saw this and felt a little sad because of it. One day, Hana and the short-haired girl secretly came to the amusement park and were live streaming. Hana, for her own amusement, used a stick to irritate a parrot. Li Yi suddenly appearing there startled them. Hana began searching for money, but Li Yi quietly endured her humiliation with patience. Hana didn't believe in magic, so Li Yi decided to show her some. He took a knife on stage and popped a balloon, which immediately burst. Hana responded, "Now pop your own paper." Li Yi controlled himself, but finally, he mentioned Aya's name. At that moment, Li Yi stopped everything and said he was waiting for Aya. The next day, Hana spread rumors at school, claiming that Aya and the magician were in a relationship, but Yitong didn't believe her. He supported Aya. As soon as Aya arrived, Yitong immediately walked out of the class. Hana told Aya that the magician was waiting for her. After school, Aya searched for Li Yi and asked why he had done that and why he was waiting for her. Yitong, who was hiding in a corner, witnessed everything. Yitong threw his mathematics notebook into the trash bin, and when Aya pulled it out and started reading, she realized it was the same notebook Yitong had left behind. Yitong understood this and placed his notebook in front of Aya. He asked her which chapter she would like to read, but Aya shyly declined. However, inside, she wished to borrow a chapter from Yitong and go through it. Aya felt a little awkward, but understanding this situation now seemed difficult for her. Still, she shyly refused, even though she secretly wanted to take a note from Yitong and read it. Finally, Aya mustered up some courage and took a note. She still felt awkward, not knowing that Yitong was caught up in his own little plan. Yitong said he was going to the library shortly and that if Aya wanted, she could come there to get any notes. He tried to appear cool, but deep down, he was happy. Then he slipped back into his cool image. In the library, Yitong had a chance to spend some time alone with Aya, and his heart was pounding like a small wolf, making it hard for him to concentrate. Time passed without him even realizing it. Aya quickly finished a note, and then Yitong took out another and handed it to her. His magic had worked, as he had managed to keep Aya close and drawn her attention to him. While Yitong maintained his math genius image, inside he was filled with joy, his heart racing. He took off his headphones and invited Aya to listen to music with him. Aya shyly accepted one of the headphones, and the two of them began listening together. In that moment, everything around them seemed to disappear, as if they were lost in a dream. Aya felt the hidden happiness in her heart, and Yitong's heart was also filled with joy. Both of them enjoyed spending time with each other. As Aya was leaving the library, it suddenly started to rain. She hadn't brought an umbrella, so they both shared the same one. Yitong seized the opportunity and suggested, "Let's go to the library again tomorrow to study." But Aya said she would be working the next day. Yitong's face became sad, and he felt a little down. Then, holding his feelings in his heart, he suddenly confessed to Aya. Aya was a bit shocked, but Yitong's emotional confession made her feel nervous. There was an awkward silence between them, with uncertainty in both their eyes. Aya felt like she was overthinking, but Yitong believed she understood his feelings. Just then, Yitong's driver arrived to take them home, and he said goodbye to Aya and left. Aya didn't quite understand all of this, but Yitong realized his mistake and rushed back to her. He thought to himself that he could understand Aya better, but his feelings had become too complicated. Aya, being a math genius herself, had intentionally given wrong answers in her exam to remain in second place, just to please her father, who wanted Yitong to impress him by winning first place. Aya found this all quite strange. Yitong's innocent thinking had led him to believe this would help the girl he liked, but he didn't realize the heavy burden it would place on Aya's dignity. Aya wished Yitong hadn't done that, understanding that it would hurt her pride. She hoped Yitong was joking, but she never responded. Yitong simply said, "Think carefully and let me know," then stood up and walked away. Later, at home, Aya felt restless. Yitong's words kept running through her mind, and she felt ashamed of her decision. Aya soon realized that what Yitong said was completely right. Being the one who raised her younger sister alone, Aya felt there was something missing in her life. During this time, she found out that her sister wouldn't be going to school the next day because the whole class was going on a school trip. Her sister said she would relax at home and enjoy her day, but Aya knew she wanted to do so much for her sister. She decided to send her sister on the trip, telling her she had the money for it. Her sister was thrilled and quickly packed her things. The next day, Aya went to school and finally made her decision. She promised Yitong she would help him so he could come first in math. Yitong then handed her 20 million Korean won as an advance, and Aya took the money with trembling hands. At that moment, instead of feeling overwhelmed, both Yitong and Aya felt a little more relaxed. All the classmates saw this, and Aya immediately put the money in her pocket. A few days later, during the midterm exams, Aya had to fulfill her deal with Yitong. With only 5 minutes left in the exam, Aya looked at her answer sheet, then glanced at Yitong and deliberately got 2 correct answers wrong. When the results were announced, the class teacher revealed that someone had come first in every subject. All the students congratulated Yitong, and the teacher personally handed him the result sheet. The teacher then looked at Aya with a little embarrassment. After school, the teacher handed Aya the remaining 30 million Korean won. Aya stopped Yitong and asked, "Why did you do this? I could have come first with my own effort." Yitong replied, "I had to do it." Aya found it hard to refuse such a large sum of money, so she accepted it. That day, Aya went to the amusement park and found a gift for Yitong to make him happy. She made him laugh with her little magic trick. Aya became quite interested in magic and told Yitong she wanted to learn it, but Yitong secretly followed her and saw her happily talking with Li Yi. This made Yitong a little angry. Yitong always scored full marks in every exam, but Aya had deliberately stopped her marks at 90 because she had made a deal with Yitong. She did this so that Yitong could secure the first position in all subjects and earn 50 million Korean won. Though this amount might have seemed small to Yitong, it was enough for Aya to provide her younger sister with a decent meal. Over time, Aya often helped Yitong with his homework in order to earn money for her own needs. One day during lunch break, the class teacher called her aside. It turned out that someone had posted a picture on the campus forum of Aya and Yitong receiving money. The teacher told Aya, "Send your parents to school tomorrow." That evening, tired, Aya returned home with food. Her younger sister was hungry and waiting for Aya to cook. Aya opened the door and saw that her father, who had been hiding to avoid taking money, had returned. Aya prepared a big meal for him and said, "You've worked hard." Then her father received a phone call from his creditors. That night, her father slept with her younger sister, and Aya put all the money she had earned from Yitong into an envelope. She decided to return it to her Yitong to end the school gossip. The next morning, Aya's sister woke her up. Aya got up and noticed her father's voice was absent. She saw that her bag was open and immediately understood what had happened. Her father had secretly taken her money. Aya's heart broke. It was revealed that during the night while Aya was asleep, her father had taken the money. At school, the teacher asked Aya, "Why didn't your father come to school?" When it was found out that Yitong's mother was planning to escalate the matter, Aya had to tell the truth. Later that evening, Aya received a call from her father. "You've earned a lot of money. Next time you come home, I'll prepare a whole box of strawberries for you." Aya felt both angry and worried, but she replied, "Father, I'll work more. I'll come see you." Her father then said, "I miss you both. Sometimes I feel guilty seeing you two alone at home. Do you ever feel sad?" Aya had become used used to her father's behavior, but there was one thing that caused her even more pain. The next day, the school held a special event where Yitang was awarded the Special Kindness Award. Yitang couldn't understand what kind of good deed he had done. Aya had a feeling that something bad was going to happen. Yitang looked at Aya, and their eyes met. Amid the applause from the students, Yitang had to go up and receive the award. The school awarded Yitang not only for his excellent academic performance, but also for his honesty. The school awarded Yitang not only for her academic excellence, but also for her dedication to helping poor friends. Soon, gossip spread among the students, and everyone found out that it was Aya who secretly helped Yitang, not the other way around as was believed. For Aya, the entire award ceremony felt like a label of poverty that she didn't want. She knew her family was poor, but she didn't want anyone's pity or help to be a part of her life. Moreover, she had earned that money by sacrificing her grades. Yitang was a bit confused when she received the award. It turned out that the school had shifted the burden of this special kindness onto Aya to protect Yitang's image as a studious student. When Aya looked at the teacher, she could see that they were just trying to hide their embarrassment, and Aya realized that her true enemy wasn't money, but these self-centered adults. The relationship between Aya and Yitang began to weaken. Yitang went up to Aya and apologized. Yitang still didn't fully understand what had happened. She couldn't comprehend how things had turned out this way. Aya simply said, "It's okay." But whenever she didn't show her pain, Yitang's heart hurt even more. "You just had to say one thing. Do you think you can fix everything? Do you think by doing all this, you'll be able to get away from me? Do you think I'll be happy if I say all this?" This was the truth, and this was what was happening. That night, when Aya was outside her house, she overheard her mother talking on the phone. Her mother quickly ended the call when she noticed that Yitang had come home, and then Yitang found out that her mother had thrown away all her favorite things in the trash. Yitang's heart ached, but she didn't say anything. Her mother said, "You're not smart enough and you're acting like this in front of me?" Yitang was nervous, knowing her mother only cared about her grades. But Yitang's dream had never been to become a judge or lawyer. She was simply living her life while trying to meet her parents' expectations. Yitang still attended extra tuition classes, but all she could think about were images of Aya, someone who had struggled so hard to understand herself on stage. Aya too had sat backstage, feeling humiliated. Thinking of all this, Yitang's mind was filled with confusion. That day's test had been a disaster, with all the questions answered wrong. In frustration, Yitang crumpled the paper. The next day, she suddenly felt dizzy at school and rushed to submit her paper early. The day after, during another exam, Yitang started to feel faint again. Was this really happening? She thought of submitting her paper quickly. When her mother found out, she immediately went to her room and asked, "Why did you leave half of the exam paper unanswered?" In anger, her mother opened Yitang's locker and threw all the magic tricks she had been secretly studying on the floor. To her mother, these were useless things. Yitang was very stressed and didn't know what to do. In the end, her father stepped in and ended the small fight. That day, Li Yi was teaching Aya some magic tricks, and they were having a lot of fun together. Yitang, who was secretly watching them, became quite jealous. Just then, a small ball rolled out by mistake, and Yitang picked it up and joined them. Seeing this, Li Yi demonstrated a magic trick, and Aya really liked it. Yitang, who was still a bit upset, decided to give it a try, and soon she too was fascinated by the magic trick. "I love you," Yitang said. After Li Yi left, Yitang made Aya happy by doing the same magic trick. However, she made a mistake and burned her hand, but despite the pain, there was a smile on her face. "Are you okay?" Aya asked her. Yitang replied, "Don't touch me." Aya quickly bought some ointment and applied it to her hand. Then she lovingly placed a window sticker on her, making Yitang blush a little. The two promised each other to stay friends. That day, Hina secretly entered the amusement park and set up a camera. Her plan was to secretly record Li Yi's life and post it on her social media to increase her popularity. But Li Yi caught her, and Na quickly threw the camera into a corner and ran away. After a while, Na gave Yitang and Aya a USB and claimed she had learned the secret of magician Li Yi. Yitang and Aya went to the school's computer lab and bravely watched the video. They saw that Li Yi was fighting with a man wearing a mask. In the video, Li Yi took out a knife and pressed it against the man's cheek, his face filled with anger and intensity. Yitang and Aya, who admired their favorite magician, were shocked to see that the person they looked up to had turned mad and was now attacking someone with a knife. But just at that crucial moment, the video stopped. Yitang stopped Aya from going to find the magician, saying that he had become a dangerous person now. On a stormy night, when lightning was flashing and rain was pouring, an old woman was quietly followed and robbed. The person who robbed her was wearing the magician's costume. Soon, the police came looking for Aya to ask her about the magician, but Aya was sure that their magician could not be involved. The police told her that they had found a witness, someone who had previously disturbed Aya, the convenience store owner. Aya recalled him with fear, as he had falsely accused her and the magician of being a gang involved in hiding money and providing protection. That night, Li Yi had pushed that greasy boss off a cliff. Aya, filled with fear and tension, couldn't say anything. Just then, Yitang rang the bell and entered, clearing everything up. She explained that the thief who had robbed the old lady was not Li Yi, as she had been with her all night. Soon, Yitang's parents arrived at the school. school. When they heard that their brilliant son was now involved in a robbery, Yitang's mother went completely mad. Her father told Yitang to change his statement and not say anything about the magician. Yitang didn't understand why her father was saying this. She had worked so hard just to be a good person, but now, when it came time to tell the truth, her father still misunderstood her. Yitang's anger grew, which she had always kept bottled up due to her grades. At that moment, Yitang completely broke down. In that instant, she admired Li Yi's freedom more than anything. One day after school, Yitang noticed someone imitating the magician uncle from behind. Not only did this person disgrace the magician, but he also put Aya down. Without thinking, Yitang approached him and slapped him across the face. A fight broke out between them, and during this, the police arrived at the theme park to arrest Li Yi. Aya was also there. Before leaving, Aya placed the magician's top hat on her head. The police told Li Yi to come with them, but Aya stopped him and smiled at him. In a swift motion, Aya pulled down the tablecloth, and as it fell, Li Yi vanished. Everyone watching this scene was stunned. Soon, the truth came out. The real villain was the convenience store owner. To take revenge on Li Yi, he had worn the magician's costume and falsely accused him of crimes. Evil was finally brought to justice. Once the magician uncle's name was cleared, he never returned. Yitang, disappointed with her parents, decided to leave her school. Her teacher couldn't understand why Yitang had become so rebellious. The teacher believed that if Yitang followed her parents' path, her future would be bright. However, Yitang knew she had to live her life on her own terms, not under her parents' control. In this moment, Yitang truly felt happiness. Li Yi had left, but before doing so, he had dropped a letter in Yitang's mailbox. Aya too remembered Li Yi in her heart and secretly began working at a restaurant dressed as a magician to bring smiles to children's faces.